We offer praise. We offer praise. Oh yeah, yes we do. Offer praise. We
And if it seem evil to you to serve the Lord, choose you this day whom ye will serve. I want to talk about old choices in a new year. Old choices in a new year. Welcome the rest of the family. Bless y'all today. Old choices in a new year. Look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, it's a new year, but I brought with me some old choices. Hallelujah. Old choices in a new year. If you had it to do it all over again, are there some choices you would or would not make? I don't want you to think back too far. I don't want you to go back too far. Every now and then it's just a good question to ask. I said if you had it to do all over again, are there some choices you would or would not make? Are there some places you would or would not go? Are there some things you would or would not do? Or do as much? Are there some items you would or would not have purchased? Are there some people you would or would not have purchased them for? Are there some jobs you would or would not have applied for? Are there some jobs you would not have accepted their invitation to work for? Are there some promotions you sought that you thought better and said, I should have stayed where I was? Are there some fraternity sororities you would or would not have pledged? Or some churches you would or would not have joined? I ain't talking about nobody here. I'm talking about places you used to be before you got here. Are there some events you would or would not have attended? Are there some votes you would or would not have cast? Are there some parties you would or would not have stayed as long at? Wrong crowd. All right, let me get the rest of y'all. Are there some people you would or would not have dated? Don't look at nobody when I ask this next one. Look straight at me. Straight at me. Are there some people you would or would not have married? Straight at me. Smile. Are there some kids you would or would not have had? Are there some decisions you would or would not have made? A millionaire, successful businessman was asked, how did you become so successful? He said, I guess I made some good choices. The interviewer went on and said, well, how did you learn to make good choices? He said, from a whole bunch of bad ones I made. Truth be told, we don't learn to make good choices because they are easy and they are innate. But most often we learn to make good choices because of a whole bunch of bad choices that we've made. Is there anybody here who's lived long enough to say it? I confess I made a whole bunch of bad choices in my life. Choice is a distinguishing characteristic that we have that God gives us as a privilege. is the one thing that distinguishes us from everyone else. I think I hear my baby. God bless you, baby. I need my amen right there. Truth is that this distinguishing characteristic God gives us as a privilege that makes us who we are, Homo sapien. The one thing that you have that is completely yours, that not even God nor Satan will superimpose or unduly influence, is your choice. There was an old comedian before the ones that are on the scene now, Kevin Hart and all of these who are on the scene now, who come along, you know, even before Bernie Mac, before Eddie Murphy, before all of these who we deal with. There was one by the name of Flip Wilson. I'm really dating myself. Personally, know who that is. Amen. But somebody remember old Flip Wilson, Deacon Landrum? And he was known by a statement in his alter ego before Tyler Perry ever came up with Medea. Flip Wilson had Geraldine. I said before Tyler Perry had Medea, Flip had Geraldine. Y'all remember Geraldine? He would go and put on his Geraldine and come back out on the stage. And his classic line, Tommy, was "the devil made me do it." And whenever he would do something that he had no business doing, he just blame it on the devil. And just say, "The devil made me do it." That's good comedy, but it's bad theology. I said it's good comedy, but it's bad theology. Because the devil can tempt you to do many things, but he can't make you do anything. I said he can tempt you to do everything, but he can't make you do anything. We must own the fact that the challenges of our life and the things that we have dealt with that have caused us our most grief and pain are choices that we made and things that we did. And if you really want to find out where the enemy is, look in the mirror and tell yourself the enemy is in me. Small choices made today will end up in big results reaped tomorrow. You sow a thought and you'll reap an action. You sow an action, you will reap a habit. You sow a habit, you'll reap a character. You sow a character, you'll reap your destiny. The choices made today help shape the destiny of your tomorrow. You must evaluate your outcomes before your journey begins. You don't wait to get to the end and ask yourself, how did I get here? You choose your destinies. Too often, we wonder and look back over our life and wonder how we got so crooked. But choosing the path of least resistance is what makes men and rivers go crooked. That's worthy of a statement again. Choosing the path of least resistance. If you look on a map and see where water lines are going crooked, it's because water pushed wherever the ground gave way the easiest. And when you don't make a choice, it is a choice. And sometime when you take the easy way out, you look back over your life and you'll find out that your way was not made straight. If you want to have a straight made way, you have to lay out a trench. You have to dig out a path. You got to trailblaze where you want to be. And that is what gives you what you ought to have. You come to find out that in the process of life and life's choices, the choices that we often make or fail to make is what gives us the options that we have today. The good news is, after all the bad choices you made, you can make one good choice. Somebody, I should have got excited right there. I could have quit. I said, you can make one good choice, and it can help to straighten out a whole bunch of bad ones. Maybe your life has accumulated a bunch of zeros, and everything has ended up and amounted up to nothings. But if you can just line up all your zeros and put the right one in front. Oh, Jesus. I said, if you can line up all your zeros and put the right one in front. Now, if you put it behind, it ain't going to help you very much. But if you can put it in front, you can go from a zero to a hero if you know how to put the right one in front of your life. Anybody know when you put the right one in front, it changed everything in your life? Do I have to tell you before I close who the right one is? I already read the scripture. But I don't know about you, but the reason why my life has changed and amounted to what it is no matter how many zeros I've accumulated in my life, I've decided to make Jesus my choice. Well, the text will bear out for us the challenges of our life and past. The text will bear out that generations upon generations will come. The text will bear out that God has a way of planting new seed that comes because even after the end of a summery season and fall has set in, as you're looking at the depletion of flowers and others, seeds are planted in the ground, and in the dormancy of a winter, there's coming budding of new generations in the spring. So no matter how wintry a season you're enduring right now, you can hold on because spring is coming. And when spring comes, new hope arises and new opportunities arise and new chances arise. Just like people look forward to a new year, people have the opportunity to look at a new year and make that figuratively an opportunity to develop some new choices. But let me just remind you that there's no blessing in the fact that you in January versus December. I mean, you can psych yourself out to believe that, I'm in New Year's, so the fact is I ate all them donuts and Twinkies, cupcakes and pies in December, and just because it's January and I got on Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers or everything else, all of a sudden because I made a New Year's resolution, all of a sudden because I decided to drink me my little keto shake, that all of a sudden my weight's gonna drop off. Well, baby, if you made a whole bunch of bad eating choices, come on, help me here. In October, November, and December, I don't care how much kale and spinach you eat in January, it ain't falling off like that. You can go on all the crash diets you want, but the only way you're going to get it off and keep it off, you got to make some different choices. And you're going to have to make them more than 1 week and 1 day and 1 month. Everybody who declare what they ain't going to do no more in January, I ain't smoking no more, I ain't drinking no more, I ain't going to, by February they smoking, drinking, puffing, amen. Why? Because resolutions don't make the difference. I'm not talking about making wishful thinking. I'm talking about making life-changing choices. That is what the text is challenging us to. Can you make choices that can be the difference for the rest of your life? Joshua was made for this moment. Everything that Joshua is experiencing in this moment, he's been preparing for, because he didn't just get to chapter 24 without going through a whole life of watching choices made and making choices himself. If I had the privilege of time, I'd tell you that before he got to be the leader of Israel, he had the privilege of watching his mentor. He had the privilege of watching the Moses of his life. He had the privilege of looking and walking with and riding in the second chariot and helping someone else in their time of leadership. And the fact that he had a better reign, a better opportunity, a better season of leadership is because he learned by watching others. Let me just say to you, your life would be so much better if you stopped trying to do everything, thinking you starting everything brand new for yourself. Some things you can do by watching somebody else if somebody else did something and made a mistake, and the one before them did it and made a mistake, and the one before them come and make it, I don't know how you think you gonna come along, and all of a sudden you gonna think you Superwoman or you Batman, and it ain't gonna happen to you. All right, you don't get it. If your great granddaddy smoked weed, your granddaddy was a puffer. Come on. Your daddy smoked Indo, blunts, and juice. And all of them started out and they ended up addicted and restricted. Then don't think that just because they passed a marijuana law in Detroit that you gonna be all right. Sometimes we don't learn life's lessons because we have this ability to blind ourselves from the mistakes of others. And everybody can teach you something. I said everybody can teach you something. Don't discount anybody in your life because everybody can teach you something. They can either teach you what to do or what not to do, but everybody can teach you something. My sainted father would tell me something that I never did find in the Bible, but it made good sense, Brother Kukot. He said, never let a loser tell you how to win. Don't look, it's not in your Bible, but it's good stuff. Amen. He said, never let a loser tell you how to win. If you're going to be a winner, then hang around winners. If you want to fly high, find you some eagles and leave them chickens alone. If you're going to make it where you want to be in your destiny, you got to be in the company of the people that will help get you there. You ain't going to be a millionaire hanging out with 100-ass. If they still borrowing $5, still ain't never had nothing on their own, that may not be the person that you want to talk to about how to succeed. The text suggests to us that Joshua learned by watching Moses. And if you want to be a great leader, it starts by being a great follower. He knew how to ride in the second chariot, which meant when the first chariot came along, he was prepared for his moment. Joshua didn't just look up into the leader of these people, but he knew that God was preparing him. When you read in Joshua chapter 1 that Moses, my servant, is dead, he tells Joshua, now rise. He didn't say, now go to school. He didn't say, now I need you to start getting yourself together. You need to start. No, he said, you are already prepared. And preparation comes ahead of destination. Problem with too many people is that not that God won't do his job, is that you're not going to do yours. See, because destination is God's business, preparation is yours. I said destination is God's business, preparation is yours. You didn't get it, so you're going to have to repeat after me. Repeat after me. Destination is God's business, preparation is my business. See, we always got our nose in God's business. God, where I'm going. God, how come I ain't got this? God, how come my wife ain't come? How come my husband ain't here? How come we always looking at God, how come I'm still stuck on this dead end job? God, how come I'm living in this raggedy community? Lord, why we always trying to find out where we go? Listen, if you got where you going, can you stay where you going? Because the problem is God will deliver. Ask Abraham. It took a while, but he got what he promised. The key is that when you get to the place of your promise, can you say, I'm prepared to stay? I'm prepared to hold on to it. Because God's not going to make you make the right choices to get you right and ready for what he's got promised for you. Let God do his business and you do yours. The question is not, is he coming? The question is, are you ready? You do know he is coming, right? But are you prepared for his return? Well, I know the preachers don't preach too much about the second return of God, but he's coming. When I look and see what's happening in the world today, I'm getting ready, amen, hitching up the wagon. I know it can't be too long because there's some crazy stuff going on out here in this world right now. But I want you to know, I don't know when it is. I'm not going to be one of those trying to say, well, you know, it's going to be September 25th this year. Yes, it is. No, I'm not, because he said, no man knows the day nor the hour that I will come. That's God's business, is what Jesus was saying about the Father. He just said, are you ready whenever he comes? Touch your neighbor and say, will you be ready? That is the question. And being ready, he uses the imagery of 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish. And the difference between them is some of them were ready because they had oil in their lamp. Others of them were so busy watching the party and people coming in and looking at the red carpet that when the bridegroom came, they couldn't go in. Joshua was ready. He was prepared for this moment. The late Frederick G. Sampson used to say to us as young preachers, God is preparing you for what he has prepared for you. Well, that's a major statement right there. God is preparing you for what he has already prepared for you. That's why he said to Joshua, every place where your foot shall tread, I have already given you. Oh, it's in there. You look back at that promise. He said, every place, watch this, where you're going, don't worry about where you're going and not knowing where you're going, because wherever you're going, I've been there already. Oh, y'all gonna make me add 2 more minutes. I said, don't worry about your destiny. God's been there and got it ready for you. Promised land is for promised people. God knows where you're headed. The question is, can you get there and can you stay there? Problem with most of us is that we're not ready for the next level, even though we keep talking about I'm going. I'm moving on up. But you forget that the higher the level, the greater the devil. Satan is attracted to purposeful people. Flying high and walking alone makes you a target. So even if you do decide you're going to get away from old crazy crackhead Craig, even though you're going to get away from old marijuana Mary, you got to know that when you decide that you're going to do this thing the right way in a new year, you just really set yourself up to really become a target, because Satan loves to agonize the anointed. He loves to hype the holy, to burden the blessed, to paralyze purposeful promised land people. He's not blocking you because of where you are. He's after you because he sees the choices you're making and where you're headed. I wish somebody understand. So don't give up because things get bad. Don't give up because things get crazy. They always get crazy when you make up your mind to do right. Have you ever found out that whenever you just laying up in situations that is doing things are fine, as soon as you say that you're going to straighten up, then all hell breaks loose. At some point when you make up your mind to do right, that's when the enemy gets busy. Oh yeah, fool around and just make the declaration, or just act like you're getting ready to leave a bad relationship. You ain't even got to say it. Just start packing. All of a sudden, you get all the wonderful niceties. People start cooking dinner. And then start doing everything right. Warm up the car. Everything going on. And it just makes you just feel like maybe this is not the right choice. But if you just press on through and say, you know what? No, I know that I need to move on. I got to go on. This is not right. This is not what the Lord would have. And you move on. As soon as you get out there, things don't get better. As my auntie would say, they get wusser. But that don't mean go back. Oh, I'm talking about 5 people right there. I said that doesn't mean go back. Promised land is never behind you. Challenge is that spiritual blessings and potential for promised land alone is not enough for some of us to be disciplined and act right. That's why sometimes God allows Satan to tempt you until you can trust him. Sometimes he'll let him trouble you till you try him. He'll let him work on you until you witness for him. He'll let him knock you down until you learn to stand up on your own. He'll let him push you till you pray. He'll let him sift you till you start singing. He'll let him sabotage you till you start serving. He'll let him signify on you till you start shouting. He'll let him demean you until you start dancing. He'll let him lean on you until you start lifting your hands. Preach, Reverend Bland. I am, and I'm about to get to the last one. He'll tell you you won't and can't until you say, I believe I will and I can do all things. Your mentality determines your reality. And so the repercussions of this text suggest to us, as I hurriedly look through what he's trying to help us to see, y'all get the baby on ready, come on back in. I told y'all crying babies don't mess me up. It's sleeping deacons, but they woke today, so I'm good. All right. Bring on back in here till I'm about ready to go. But let me just, can I tell you a few things on my way to the dedication? The text talks about somebody say, critical criteria of my choice and the continuity of my choice is the first thing I need to be concerned about. All right, the critical criteria and the continuity. All right, the critical criteria in the text that suggests to us that he tells us, and the continuity is in the text. It says it like this, and it kind of blows my mind every time I read it. And when you look at verse 14b, it says, he tells them, follow my instructions. What are your instructions? He says, fear the Lord, serve him in sincerity and truth, and put away the gods which your father served on the other side of the flood. That's pretty simple instructions, right? I mean, ain't much to that. He said, fear the Lord, serve him in sincerity and truth, put away the gods. All right. Do right. Go to church. Worship the Lord. Stop acting cray-cray. And make sure you keep doing what you start doing. Does that break it down a little bit better for somebody? Some people can't follow God's instructions because to us, we just think that's just too hard. I can't follow, that's too much. Listen, if you just follow what God says, God has a way of working things out because he knows how hard it is. Professor was giving out a test on a pop quiz one day. And so what happened, Heather, was when he came to the classroom, they weren't expecting it. They came in, he walked in, he said, everybody clear your desk. You know when they say clear your desk, that means something. So kind of when he said clear the desk, everybody got nervous. He said, take out your number 2 pencils. Everybody took out the number 2 pencil. And he placed a test on each one of their desks. And as he placed the test on the desk, he said, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to turn the test over. I want you to read the test through from front to the end. Then he says, I want you to follow the instructions. He told him again. He said, I want you to turn the test over. I want you to read the test through front to the end, and I want you to just follow my instructions. He said, okay, go. And people in normal test-taking mode turned it over and looked and saw some of the hardest questions they'd ever seen in their life. Even the A students said, I ain't never seen some of this. This looks like Chinese to me. I didn't even know we had this. I don't know if studied it. And so they were falling out, and they were getting upset, and they were going through, and many of them were scratching their head, and then there was one student who never got an A. Not you, Grant. I'm just talking about you. There was a student that never did well. And he looked at it, and all the tests looked like Chinese to him. So this wasn't nothing new, but he stopped, and before he could trip, he listened to what the professor said. So he turned it over, he read it through, got to the very last page, and the last line said, sign your name on this line and you will receive an A. Some of y'all slow, that's why you don't get no A's. Y'all missed what I just said. While everybody else was wrestling through and trying to figure out all the problems on page 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, the instructions were read it all, get to the end, and follow what I said do, and everything will be all right. If you just read what God says and do what God says, it ain't as hard as you think it is. That young man was the only one to get the A, because everybody else quit before they got to the last page. And life is designed to make you quit before you follow God's instructions. God just says the race is not given to the swift, nor the battle to the... Can you push to the end? Can you get to the end? Somebody say, I'm going to make it to the end. I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to throw in the towel. Matter of fact, the boxer never throws in the towel. Only the corner can do it. I'm going to get to the end and sign my name. If that's what he told me to do, that's what I'm going to do. Somebody say, follow instructions. And then not only did he tell him to deal with the criteria of choice, the continuity of choice is in the text. What do you mean continuity? It means the text suggests that this was not the first time Israel was faced with this choice. You go back to Deuteronomy 15, Abraham had to face this choice. Isaac had to face this choice. Jacob had to face it with his rascal self. Moses had to face this choice. When you read Deuteronomy 15, you'll find out that Moses is raising the same stuff that Joshua is saying to the same people, except that it's their generations that follows. 600 years after Abraham, one generation after Moses, Joshua is still saying the same thing. Moses says, see, I have set before thee life and death, blessing and cursing. So choose life that you might live. It is not just enough just to say we chose God in the past. I chose God when I first got saved. I chose God when I first got off the mourner's bench. I chose God when I first came from the south to the north. I chose God when I first received the Holy Ghost. I chose God at the beginning. But did you choose him this morning? Oh, Jesus. You see, salvation is good, but sanctification is daily. The steak I had last month ain't doing nothing for me right now. I don't think. It might be. I don't know, but I don't think it is. You need a Janet Jackson spirit. You need to ask the question, Lord, what can I do for you lately? Continuity means I got to keep making. It says, and that word in the progressive sense says, keep choosing the Lord. Tell your neighbor, I got to keep making the right choice. Then he goes not only from the continuity to also now the critical nature of choice, which is to say, last part, it says, put away the gods which your father served. Now, before I get to this last one, I'm scratching my head, because why would Joshua need to tell them to put away the gods their father served? Didn't Moses tell them to leave them in Egypt? Y'all ready to go? Okay. Let me try this side. I said, didn't Moses tell them to leave them gods? All right, I just got through preaching about a watch night. Okay. Big God take little God, whatever. Okay. Truth is, the same gods that I got through preaching that Elijah was telling them to let go on Mount Carmel are the same gods that Joshua was telling them to let go right here. In other words, why is it that every time God says, put away those idol gods, that somebody in the generations keep bringing things that keep messing up the generational line? Joshua does not need to have to keep telling people who should have learned after 400 years of oppression. You would think after 400 years they wouldn't want to see none of them little gods no more.
But one of the reasons why some folk ain't going to make it this year is because you still want to keep dragging those same little gods that got you jacked up before. You can't pursue the God of money and keep God first in your life. Because at some point, you need to trust in God instead of pursuing in God we trust. I said at some point, you need to put your trust in God instead of trying to get some more in God we trust. Because the God of materialism has killed us continuously, but some of us keep pursuing other gods. I wish I could tell you about the God of humanism and secularism and all these other gods that have distracted us from him. But let me just say to you, they left Pharaoh, but they carried Pharaoh's gods. Are you calling on God while packing the devil's goodies? Because here they are walking out, and Joshua watched them. He was a young man then, but he saw them talking about we on our way to promised land. They saw them talking about how they were going to move and get to, but as soon as they got to the Red Sea, they started hollering and what we gonna do. And they saw God move back and part and make a highway out of more water than they've ever seen in their life. And he let them cross over, and Pharaoh's army drowned. No, Pharaoh didn't drown, but his army drowned. They got on the other side, and then when they got there, they had nothing to eat. They started crying again. They had bread baked by the sun. They cried again. God gave them Avion water out of a rock. They cried again. They had clothes that never wore out. They cried again. The shoes never wore out. They cried again. They had health care in the desert. Blue Cross Blue Shield put a snake on a stick, look up and live, and they did not die. God took care of them in all of the wilderness, and at the same time they were still packing idol gods. Let me just say this to you. God sure enough been good to you. That's why you ought to be careful when you come to the communion table, because the truth is God loves us even though he knows you still up to no good. God watches us sometime not choose him, and he still woke you up this morning. God watches us still not love him, and he still grants you every good and perfect gift. The benefits of God, the blessings of God are renewed. And thank God that he's not like us. He's faithful to us even when we've not been faithful to him. Why should I choose God? Because he chose me. I'm ready to close this now. I said I choose him because even in all my waywardness and all my idol packing and all the stuff that I did wrong, he still chose me. Somebody say he chose me. Aren't you glad he chose you when he could have just walked away from you? Aren't you glad he chose you when he could have just threw you into the proverbial garbage can of life? Aren't you glad he chose you when sometimes you didn't even choose you? Sometime when you decided to end your own life, when you decide to let it go, aren't you glad he still chose you? Well, that's why I got the conclusion of my choice. Somebody say, I've come to a conclusion. Since I see the criteria of choice, I'm going to follow his instructions. I got the continuity of choice. I'm going to keep on choosing him every day. Can I get a witness here? I've come to the conclusion of my choice. Since God has been good to me, since the Lord has made a way for me, even when I have not done what I should have done. Jericho walls fell, but I still didn't choose him right. Because right after Jericho wall, they were still packing gods, and God let a little nation destroy them called Ai, even after he allowed them to have a big win at Jericho. Because he says, I'm a jealous God. Can I get a witness? And thou shalt have no other gods before me. So the conclusion of the choice is Joshua said, well, I've been watching y'all carrying all these idols. And I've been watching y'all make all these crazy choices. But Joshua said, I've learned one thing about leading y'all. I learned you got to fight y'all to fight for y'all. I wish I could say that for myself. Can I say it for me, Reverend Reeves? You got to fight them to fight for them. Amen, Reverend Blair. So Joshua said, I'm not going to get hung up on whether you choose God or not. I'm not going to lose my mind and cuss people out all because you ain't doing right. Can I get a witness here? He says, I'm not going to throw in the towel because I'm stressed out because people decide they're not going to stay with God. Can I get a witness here? I'm not going to quit because people decide they're going to stay home instead of come to worship the Lord. Can I get a witness here? I'm not going to turn back all because things ain't working out the way I think they should. Joshua said, I've seen what they did in Abraham's day. And I've seen what they did in Isaac's day. I've seen what they did in Jacob's day. And I've seen what they did even when my Moses mentor, because they almost caused him not to make the trip. Can I get a witness here? He got so angry that he struck the rock when God told him to speak to the rock. Can anybody remember that sometimes people can make you so mad because they're not doing what God said do, that you're so busy watching them that you're not hearing God? Can I get a witness here? I declare this year, I'm not going to watch people, but I'm going to watch God. I'm not going to listen to my people around me. I'm going to listen to the God above me. I'm not going to let people tell me what I can't do. I'm going to listen to a God that says, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. I'm ready to close. Got a baby to dedicate now. But somebody look at your neighbor and say, neighbor, I've decided I'm going to be like Joshua. Can I get a witness here? I didn't say I'm going to be like Mike, because Mike made some bad choices. I didn't say I'm going to be like Shaq, because Shaq made some bad choices. I'm not going to be like Michelle, because she's still becoming. But I'm going to be like Joshua, because Joshua said, I've made up my mind. I'm carrying in a new year a choice I'd made a long time ago. Joshua said, you choose who you're going to serve. So I dare somebody to help me close. Grab your neighbor by the hand and say, neighbor, I'm not going to get in your business, because your business is your business. But I just want you to know, I want you to make the right choice. But just in case you decide you're going to turn back, just in case you decide you're not coming to Bible study, just in case you decide you're not going to give God your best, just in case you decide you're not going to give, just in case you decide you're not going to give your all to God, tell your neighbor, I've decided. I wish somebody said it right. Tell your neighbor, I've decided, as for me and my house, yeah, I can't speak for your house. I can't speak for the Black Club. I can't speak for the nation. I can't speak for City Hall. I can't speak for the governor. I don't care who's in the White House. I know who sits on the throne. And as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with thanksgiving. Know ye that the Lord, he is God. Is there anybody here that's made a personal declaration that says this year, I've decided, as for me and my house, we will yeah, maybe that's too many words for you. Maybe the house ain't gonna serve him. Maybe your wife is gonna be like the one that turned back. Maybe your kids that said, I don't need all that religion. Somebody ought to get up on your feet and say, as for me, and that's enough. As for me, that's all I can speak for. As for me, that's all I know. As for me, I will. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I will serve the Lord. Serve the Lord on a Sunday morning. Serve the Lord on Monday. Serve the Lord on a Tuesday. Serve the Lord Wednesday, Thursday. Serve the Lord Friday night. Serve the Lord all day Saturday and early Sunday morning. Come back, renew your vows. Say, I will serve the Lord. Can I get a witness here? You got to raise your children to serve the Lord. The reason why some children won't serve is because they never seen their parents praise. They've never seen their parents sacrifice. They've never seen their parents blaze the way. Stop telling your family where to go. You need to lead them in the way they should go. Somebody look at your neighbor and say, I'd rather see your sermon than hear your sermon. Tell them, if you choose God, let me see it in your walk. If you choose God, let me see it in your talk. Somebody ought to know, if we're going to turn this world around, we got to start with the babies. We got to start with the children. We done jacked up a whole new crew. You're supposed to train up a child because we got to train up some teenagers. But somebody say you got to start with the babies. From 0 to 2, you got to impose. From 3 to 5, you have to compose. From 6 to 12, you got to expose. From 13 to 17, you got to transpose. From 18 to 20, you got to repose. After 21, get out of my house and get your own, because I got to depose. Because you ain't grown till you're gone. But when you get your house, I've raised my children that when they bring their own families to the altar, when they get to the place, when they bring their own seed to the altar, when they get to the place, when they can bring their own children to the Lord, they can look back over their life and see what mama did, see what daddy did. Tell your neighbor, my choice is going to influence your choice. My choice will help you make your choice. That's why I can't quit. That's why I got to keep on pressing. That's why I don't feel no ways tired, because I know he's all right. Somebody give God praise. Somebody say it with me. Somebody ain't ready to take it to another level. Somebody say, I know he's all right. Shout glory. Shout yes. Shout I choose you. Shout I praise you. Say it again. I know. If you determine to make Jesus your choice and you're going all the way with him, go to another level. Somebody raise your voice and tell your neighbor, shout yeah, shout glory, get your praise on, get your dance on, get your shout on, get your choice on, make your declaration. Say it one more time. If you get to a place where you can't sing, you can't talk, you can't shout, you gotta just show them. Go to another level and tell your neighbor. Shout yeah, shout yeah. Do it for the deaf, do it for the mute, do it for the hearing impaired. Tell your neighbor. Say yeah, say yeah. He's my choice, he's my all, he's my way, he's my truth, He's my life. Can I do it for Uriah? Take it one more time. Ah! Give God some praise. Ain't he all right? Ain't he all right? Shout yeah! Some folk would rather have houses and land. Some folk choose silver and gold. These things they treasure, but they forget about their soul. I've decided it's a personal thing. Come too far to turn back now. Oh yes, it's a cuckoo. I've made some bad choices. But the only way I can stand here today, robed up, pumped up, praised up, is because he dressed me in his righteousness. I don't walk in my goodness. I walk in his grace. I don't walk in my faults. I walk in his favor. I don't walk, again, with my burdens. I walk under the cloak of his blessings. Because when I decided to make him my choice, the truth is I found out before I chose him, he chose me. I found out that while I was yet a sinner, he died for me. What manner of man is this? He showed his love for me when I was not loving or lovable. Who couldn't serve a God that did not give you a love that exceeded everyone else's? My decision today is based on the facts, and it's based on my faith. Because sometimes the facts don't bear out, Sister Starworth. The facts don't make sense. Facts might say I have cancer, and it looked like God forsook me. But my faith says that by his stripes I can be made whole. And my faith says that if I die, I gain. If I live, I win. Either way, it's going to be all right because he's still my choice. The fact says I'm not going to give up because I've come too far now. The fact says that after 101 years, Gene, God took mama. But my faith says when this earthly house of this tabernacle is dissolved and she folds up her tent, she ain't done. Here's what faith says. She's in another building. Why? Because she decided to make Jesus her choice. That's why it's important for you to choose him. Because you don't have eternity for yourself. Oh, I know people tell people where they can go, but they ain't got no heaven or hell to put them in. As I open the doors and as I prepare for this special moment, somebody today need to make a choice out of church, out of Christ, out of fellowship, out of relationship. Come right now. Come where you are. If you're here today, I want you to make a declaration with me